In the misty forests of Gaul, the Frankish tribes first rallied under Clovis I in 481 CE, establishing the Merovingian dynasty. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the soldiers moved through the dense forests, united by Clovis's promise of victory and Christianity. As his men marched toward battle, they knew they were forging a new path for a powerful kingdom in Western Europe. After a decisive victory at the Battle of Tolbiac, Clovis knelt in a church bathed in the warm glow of candlelight, accepting Christianity. His soldiers, once fierce pagans, now stood awestruck, watching their king embrace the faith. This conversion united the Frankish tribes and earned the favor of the church, forever intertwining religion with the French crown. As the icy winds blew over the Pyrenees, Charlemagne's troops trudged through deep snow, expanding his empire across Europe. The soldiers, tired but resolute, followed their king with a mix of awe and reverence. Under Charlemagne, the Carolingian Empire emerged, and the title of Holy Roman Emperor bestowed upon him by Pope Leo III symbolized the divine right of French kingship. Hugh Capet, crowned in the quiet halls of Noyon Cathedral, ushered in the Capetian dynasty. His soldiers, clad in chainmail, marched through the frost-covered fields, aware that a new order was rising from the ashes of the Carolingians. As the snow crunched beneath their feet, they carried with them the future of France, shaped by centuries of power struggles. Under the scorching Mediterranean sun, the armies of France embarked on the Crusades, following the call of Pope Urban II. Soldiers clad in the red crosses of the Crusaders marched with the scent of salt water and the heat of the desert hanging heavy in the air. For the French monarchy, these holy wars tied their fate even closer to the church, asserting their dominance over both secular and spiritual matters. The damp, foggy morning in northern France set the stage for a conflict that would span over a century. The English and French troops lined the battlefields of Crécy, their armor gleaming despite the overcast sky. King Philip VI of France rode among his troops, but the uncertainty and tension in the air hinted at the long and bitter war to come. In the village of Domremy, the smell of fresh rain and blooming fields filled the air as Joan of Arc claimed to hear divine voices. The soldiers, once skeptical, felt her unshakable confidence as she led them through the mud-soaked streets to lift the siege of Orléans. As the banners of France flew high, they knew that Joan's unwavering belief was turning the tide in the 100 Years' War. Beneath the cold stone arches of the royal court, Charles VI of France signed the Treaty of Troyes, disinheriting his own son. French soldiers, demoralized and weary, felt the bitter sting of defeat as they prepared for another battle against the encroaching English forces. The future of the monarchy seemed uncertain, with shadows looming over France's royal lineage. Louis XI, known as the Spider King, spun his webs of diplomacy and strategy from within the cool marble halls of his castle. His soldiers moved more cautiously, often relying on Louis's intrigue and manipulation rather than brute force on the battlefield. Through alliances and political cunning, he managed to consolidate the French monarchy's power and expand the kingdom. The Renaissance blossomed under the reign of Francis I, with the vibrant colors of art and learning replacing the drab shadows of medieval warfare. His soldiers, once hardened by battle, now guarded the flourishing courts of artists, scholars, and architects. Under Francis's rule, the French monarchy patronized a cultural rebirth, filling the cold, ancient castles with the warmth of innovation and creativity. A dark storm loomed over France as religious conflict tore the kingdom apart. Protestant Huguenots and Catholic soldiers clashed in cities across France, their swords glinting in the oppressive summer heat. King Henry IV's eventual rise to power and the Edict of Nantes brought a fragile peace to a nation scorched by religious warfare. The grandiosity of Louis XIV's reign was reflected in the opulence of the Palace of Versailles. His army, one of the largest in Europe, marched beneath the summer sun, basking in the glory of the Sun King. With every battle and every lavish court spectacle, Louis reinforced the absolute power of the monarchy, expanding France's borders and elevating its prestige. On the cold, muddy battlefields of Flanders, French soldiers fought to maintain their country's influence in Europe. The biting wind carried the cries of injured men as the Bourbon dynasty clashed with the rest of Europe over the Spanish crown. While Louis XIV's troops fought valiantly, the war strained the French monarchy's resources and left a lasting impact on the kingdom. As snow blanketed the plains of Saxony, French troops struggled to hold their lines against their Prussian and British enemies. Louis XV, though beloved by his court, felt the weight of defeat as the 7 Years' War drained France's wealth and military. His soldiers, huddled in the cold trenches, could sense that the monarchy's power was faltering. On a sweltering July day, the streets of Paris boiled with the fervor of revolution. As Louis XV's guards watched helplessly from the Bastille's ramparts, the mob surged forward, igniting the French Revolution. The monarchy, once untouchable, now faced the cold reality of collapse as the cries for liberty and equality grew louder. Under a bleak, cloudy sky, King Louis XVI was led to the guillotine in the Place de la Révolution. The soldiers who once defended him now stood silent, their loyalty torn between a crumbling crown and the birth of a republic. The French monarchy, having ruled for centuries, fell in the shadow of the revolution. In the quiet stillness before dawn, French soldiers marched behind their new leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, through the fields of Austerlitz. The Empire of France had risen from the ashes of the monarchy, and Napoleon's ambition drove the troops through snow and mud, hungry for victory. Though a self-proclaimed emperor, Napoleon's rule symbolized the end of the traditional French monarchy. The Bourbon monarchy briefly returned under the restoration of Louis XVIII. French soldiers, once again in royal service, patrolled the streets of a divided nation. Though the monarchy had been restored, the chill of republican ideals remained, whispering through the air like a cold wind, unsettling the royalists. The crackling sound of musket fire echoed through the streets of Paris as yet another revolution unfolded in 1848. The soldiers, weary from years of political turmoil, were caught between monarchists and republicans. The Second French Republic was proclaimed, and the monarchy's final breath faded into the annals of history. The French monarchy may have fallen, but its legacy remains deeply etched into the architecture, culture, and law of France. The centuries of battles, treaties, and royal decrees shaped the destiny of not only France, but all of Europe. The stories of kings and queens, triumphs and defeats, echo across the palaces and battlefields, reminding us of the enduring power of the French monarchy's history. Our journey through time comes to an end for today. We embark on new adventures every week. If you relish the experience, please like and subscribe.